The night on the ruined planet was quiet. Too quiet. Wind howled through the broken walls of an old orphanage, carrying the smell of metal, smoke, and rain. The building had once been full of laughter, light, and small alien voices, but now it was nothing but shadows and cold. Inside, under a broken metal bed, a small girl hid. Her name was Lyra. Her skin was pale blue, her hair silver white, and her eyes glowed softly in the dark like tiny stars. She was only 8 years old, if years still mattered on a world that had already died. She held a torn blanket tight to her chest. Her little fingers shook. She was hungry, tired, and alone. For many days she had not seen anyone living. Only the sound of old machines, sometimes clicking in the dark. She whispered to herself to stay calm. "Don't cry, Lyra, don't cry." The ceiling above her creaked. Rain leaked through cracks. The last storm had broken most of the roof. But Lyra did not leave. Outside, the ground was full of fire holes, places where the war machines had fallen. Somewhere far away, the sky still glowed red from fires that never stopped burning. She closed her eyes, and in the smallest, softest voice she whispered to the dark, "Can I have a dad?" The wind stopped for a moment. The building seemed to hold its breath. Then the sound traveled through the broken radio system in the orphanage, an old network that once connected to the stars. The whisper, tiny as it was, began to move. Far away on a human ship called the Horizon, Captain Evan Ross sat alone in the comms room. The screens around him blinked with weak lights. His crew slept. They were on a long patrol near the edge of the galaxy, watching for distress signals, scanning old war zones. He rubbed his tired eyes and leaned back in his chair. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. He was about to shut down the system for the night when something strange happened. A whisper came through the static, soft, faint, like a breath. "Can I have a dad?" Evan froze. He thought he imagined it. He replayed the sound. The same voice, small, sad, real. He leaned forward, turning every dial he could. "This is Captain Ross of the Horizon," he said into the mic. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the soft hiss of empty space. He frowned. Signals couldn't travel that far through dead channels, and no child's voice should reach a military ship across light years. But something about the voice hit him deep inside. It felt familiar. For a long time he stared at the dark window in front of him where stars floated quietly. Somewhere beyond them, a lonely voice had called out, for a father, and Evan Ross, who had lost his own daughter 5 years ago, felt his heart break again. He checked the signal data. It came from a planet listed as Rhinar 3, a world destroyed during the human-Rhinari War. The files said no life signs had been detected in 10 years. "Quarantined. Do not enter," the warning read, but the voice, it couldn't be a trick. Evan couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was really there. He called his second officer, Maya Chen, to the room. She walked in, rubbing her eyes. "Captain, it's 3 in the morning. What is it?" "Listen to this," he said, and played the recording. Maya listened. When the whisper came, soft, almost broken, her face changed. "That's a child," she said quietly. "Exactly," Evan replied. "And it's coming from Rhinar 3, she frowned. "That planet's dead, sir. No one survived there. You know that." "I know," Evan said, "but I also know what I heard." He turned to the window again. "If there's even one child alive down there, we have to go." Maya hesitated. "Command will never approve it. You'd be breaking orders." Evan's eyes darkened. Command isn't the one who heard her ask for a dad. The silence between them felt heavy. The hum of the ship filled the room. Then Maya sighed. "If you're going, I'm with you." Hours later, the Horizon changed its course. No one else knew. The ship slid through black space, heading toward the forbidden world. As they approached, the planet appeared on the screen, a gray, lifeless sphere covered in clouds and dust storms. Once it had been home to millions of alien children like the one who whispered. Now only ruins remained. Evan felt a strange pull in his chest. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't ignore it. It was as if something deep inside him, something human, was answering that whisper. Somewhere down there, in the silence and smoke, a small girl waited. She had asked for something simple, something pure, something that made even the cold stars seem to listen. She had whispered, "Can I have a dad?" And far across the galaxy, a human had heard her. The ship Horizon floated above the gray planet like a lonely star. Lightning flashed in the clouds below, lighting up the scars of war across the land. From orbit, the world looked dead, no forests, no oceans, only ashes and broken stone. Captain Evan Ross stood at the viewing deck, staring at the cursed planet called Rhinar 3. The computer's voice repeated, "Warning, quarantine zone, biological risk, entry forbidden." But Evan's mind was already made up. That voice, the little whisper asking for a dad, would not leave his heart. It had echoed in his head all night like a song that refused to fade. He pressed the comm switch. "Lieutenant Maya, prepare the landing pod." "I'm going down there." Maya's voice came sharp through the speaker. "Sir, Command will court-martial you if they find out." That planet was destroyed during the war for a reason. Evan gave a small, sad smile. "If there's even one child left, I won't stay up here and do nothing." There was a pause. Then Maya sighed. "Then I'm coming too. You'll need a pilot to get you back." Evan nodded. "I knew you'd say that." The pod dropped through thick clouds, shaking as thunder rolled around them. The sky was the color of ash. When they broke through, Evan saw the surface for the first time. Fields of twisted metal, blackened bones of old ships and shattered towers that once touched the sky. The storm winds screamed like ghosts. Maya guided the pod toward the signal source. Coordinates locked. "The signal is weak but steady. It's coming from a small structure. Probably an old orphanage." Evan's chest tightened. "Then that's where we start." The pod landed hard. The air outside was thick and heavy, full of smoke and dust. They put on breathing masks and stepped out. Every step crunched over burnt ground. Pieces of broken toys and metal parts lay everywhere. A child's doll, half melted by fire, stared at them with glassy eyes. Evan knelt and picked it up gently. "There were kids here," he whispered. Maya scanned the area. "Power readings ahead. Something's still running." They followed the faint signal through the ruins until they reached a building that still stood, half collapsed, its walls cracked, windows shattered. The old sign above the door read, "Rhinari Home for Young Ones." The whisper had come from here. Inside it was cold and dark. Rain dripped from holes in the ceiling. Machines hummed faintly, still alive after all these years. The air smelled of rust and sadness. "Hello?" Evan called softly. "Is anyone here?" No answer. Only the soft echo of his voice bouncing off empty halls. Maya's scanner beeped. Movement, small, close. Evan turned his head slowly. Down the hallway, something moved behind a door. He raised his light. "It's okay," he said gently. "We're not here to hurt you." The door creaked open just a little. Two glowing eyes peeked out from the darkness. A small voice whispered, trembling, "Are you human?" Evan took off his helmet so she could see his face. "Yes," he said softly. "I'm human. My name is Evan." The door opened a little more. A small alien girl stepped out, thin, dirty, but still alive. Her blue skin was pale, her hair tangled. She clutched a piece of torn fabric like a treasure. "My name is Lyra," she said, barely above a whisper. Maya gasped quietly. "It's her," she whispered. "The voice." Evan knelt down slowly, lowering his light. "Lyra," he said kindly, "I heard your voice. You asked for a dad." Lyra looked confused. "You heard me?" "I did, from far away. You called and I came." Her lips trembled. She took a small step back. "Humans killed my people. You burned the sky." Evan's face fell. "You're right," he said softly. "Humans did terrible things. But not all of us wanted war." She stared at him with wide eyes, uncertain. Evan opened his hand, showing a small ration bar. "Here," he said. "Food you need to eat." She didn't move for a moment, then slowly reached out and took it. Her fingers brushed his gloved hand, small, cold, shaking. As she ate, tears rolled down her cheeks. "I thought everyone was gone," she whispered. Evan looked around the dark hall, his heart heavy. "Maybe everyone is. Except you." Maya's scanner beeped again. "Captain, we have company. Something's moving outside." Evan's eyes narrowed. "What kind of company?" "Old drones," Maya said. "Defense units still running on auto." Evan stood quickly. "We need to get her out, now." Lyra's eyes widened. "No, they'll shoot." "They think humans are the enemy." Evan looked down at her. "Then I guess I'll just have to make them change their minds." He lifted his blaster and motioned to Maya. "Let's move." As they stepped out of the orphanage, the storm raged harder. Lightning split the sky, lighting up the ruins. Behind them, little Lyra followed, her small hand gripping Evan's jacket. She didn't know why she trusted him. Maybe because for the first time someone had come when she called. And as thunder rolled above them, Evan realized something too. He had come to save a child, but maybe this child would be the one to save him. The rain fell harder now. Each drop hit the metal ruins like the ticking of 1,000 clocks. Captain Evan Ross and Maya Chen ran through the broken streets with Lyra between them. The wind was sharp, carrying sand and ash. Somewhere behind them, the defense drones buzzed like angry hornets. Red lights flashed through the fog, search beams scanning for life. "Keep low," Evan shouted, pulling Lyra behind a burned wall. Lyra trembled, holding onto his arm. "They can smell humans," she whispered. "They were built to kill you." Evan looked at her small, frightened face. "Then we'll be quiet and smart, okay?" She nodded, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. They hid behind piles of rubble as one drone passed overhead, its sensors sweeping the ground. Evan held his breath. The sound grew louder, then faded away. He exhaled slowly. Maya checked her wrist scanner. "They're moving toward the orphanage. We've got 5 minutes to get back to the ship." Evan crouched beside Lyra. "Can you walk fast?" "Yes," she whispered. "I can run if you hold my hand." Evan smiled softly. "Then hold on tight." They ran through the storm, lightning cracking above. The pod was half buried under debris, smoke rising from its side. Maya quickly started the engines. "It's damaged, but it'll fly for one short jump," she said. Evan lifted Lyra into the pod. She sat near the window, eyes wide as the ship rose through the clouds. Below them, the ruins of her world grew smaller and smaller. When they finally broke through the storm, the stars returned, cold, bright, endless. Lyra pressed her face to the glass. "It's so big," she whispered. "I never saw the sky before. Only smoke." Evan looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "That's space. Beautiful, isn't it?" She nodded slowly. "It looks free." Back on the horizon, the crew stared in silence as Evan stepped out of the pod carrying Lyra. No one spoke. They had all heard stories about the Rhinari, the enemy, the aliens who once fought humanity for control of the outer worlds. But this child didn't look like an enemy. She looked like any scared little girl trying to survive. Maya whispered to the crew. "She's the last one." Evan set Lyra down gently. "This is a safe place," he told her. "No one will hurt you here." Lyra looked up at him. "You promise?" "I promise." That night, Evan sat with her in the med bay as the doctor checked her vitals. The lights hummed softly. Lyra's small hands gripped the edge of the blanket as the doctor scanned her. "She's malnourished," the doctor said. "Dehydrated but stable. Her blood's interesting. It's not pure Rhinari. There are human markers in it." Evan frowned. "Human?" The doctor nodded slowly. "A hybrid. Someone spliced human DNA with Rhinari, maybe during the peace experiments years ago." Evan looked at Lyra. She was staring at him quietly, listening. "Does that mean—" he began. "She's part human," the doctor said softly, "and she might be the only one left." Later, when the others had gone, Lyra sat alone in the medbay bed, knees pulled to her chest. Evan brought her a warm cup of sweet milk. She took it carefully. "Thank you," she said. "Humans say that word, right?" Evan smiled. "Yes, that's right." She sipped the drink and looked thoughtful. "You came when I whispered." "I didn't think anyone would come." Evan sat on the edge of the bed. "How did you whisper, Lyra? How did I hear you from so far away?" She looked down. "I don't know. Sometimes, when I'm scared, I can feel people. I can send feelings through the dark. I just wanted someone to care." Evan's chest tightened. "You reached across space just to find someone who cared." Lyra nodded. "And you came, so. Are you my dad now?" Evan's breath caught. The question hit him like a wave. His daughter Mia had once asked him the same question years ago, on the day he left for war. He blinked hard and looked away. He began, voice unsteady. "I don't know if I can be, but I'll keep you safe. That's a promise." She gave a small smile and leaned against his arm. "That's enough for now." Outside, Maya stood by the door, watching. "You know Command will never allow this, right?" she said quietly when Evan stepped out. Evan nodded. "Yeah, they'll call it illegal contact, maybe even treason." "So what's the plan?" He looked back toward Lyra's sleeping form. "We hide her, until I can figure out how to keep her safe." Maya sighed. "You always did have a soft spot for lost kids." Evan gave a faint smile. Maybe because I lost one too. As the ship drifted through silent space, the lights dimmed to night mode. In the med bay, Lyra whispered softly in her sleep, words barely audible through the hum of the ship. "Thank you for hearing me." And somewhere deep inside the ship, the human who had heard her, across stars, across war, across silence, finally felt alive again. The horizon floated through the deep quiet of space, its lights dimmed to a soft blue glow. Most of the crew slept, but Captain Evan Ross was wide awake. He stood in the observation bay, watching the stars drift by like silver dust. Behind those stars lay hundreds of laws, warnings, and orders, and he had just broken all of them. He had brought an alien child aboard, a child who wasn't supposed to exist. He touched the comm screen again. It flashed red. Command had sent 3 urgent messages. He hadn't answered any of them. Maya Chen entered quietly, holding 2 cups of hot tea. "Still awake?" she asked. Evan nodded, his eyes still on the stars. "They know," he said. "They must have traced the pod," Maya sighed. "They'll send patrols. Maybe even hunters. You know the rules, Captain. No alien contact. No biological risks." Evan turned to her, his jaw tight. "She's not a risk, Maya. She's a kid." "I know," Maya said softly. "But Command doesn't care about that. They care about control." Evan's face hardened. "Then we'll stay off their radar." Down in the lower deck, Lyra sat cross-legged on a metal bed, staring at the small window where stars passed like tiny lights. The hum of the engines made the room feel alive. She had never been on a ship before. Every sound was new. She was trying to draw something on a scrap of paper Evan had given her. A circle, then smaller dots around it. "That's my planet," she whispered to herself. "And that's where he found me." The door slid open and Evan walked in, smiling softly. "You're still awake?" Lyra nodded. "I couldn't sleep. It's too quiet here." He sat beside her. "You'll get used to it. Space always feels quiet at first." She looked up at him. "Is this your home?" Evan shook his head. "No. I guess home is wherever you decide it is." She thought for a moment, then said, "Then maybe this ship is home now." That simple sentence warmed him more than any heater could. "Maybe it is," he said quietly. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Maya's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, 3 human patrol cruisers incoming. They've locked onto our ship signature." Evan jumped to his feet. "Stay here, Lyra, don't move." Lyra grabbed his sleeve. "Are they bad people?" "They're not bad," he said quickly, "but they'll take you away if they find you. So promise me you'll hide." She nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Evan rushed to the bridge. Maya was already at the controls, her hands flying over the console. "They're demanding we stop engines and prepare for boarding," she said. "Not happening," Evan replied. "Plot a jump route to Sector 9. Sector 9? Maya blinked. "That's near Rhinari space." "I know," Evan said. "It's the only place they won't follow." Maya hesitated, then started the jump sequence. The ship shuddered as the engines roared. Behind them, the patrol cruisers fired tracking torpedoes. Blue light streaked through space. "Evasive maneuvers," Evan shouted. The ship rolled sharply. Alarms echoed. One torpedo clipped the hull, shaking the decks. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Lyra screamed from her room as the ship tilted. She ran out into the hall, barefoot and shaking. Evan saw her on the screen and cursed. "She's in the corridor." "Maya, stabilize the ship." Maya's hands moved fast. "Trying." Evan sprinted out of the bridge, racing through smoke and flickering lights until he reached Lyra. She was clutching the wall, tears in her eyes. "I told you to stay hidden," he shouted, grabbing her. "I was scared," she cried. "I didn't want you to go away." He looked at her trembling hands and something inside him softened. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly. Then he carried her back toward the engine bay. On the bridge, Maya shouted, "Jump engines online." Evan strapped Lyra into the co-pilot seat beside him. "Hold on," he said. Outside, the enemy cruisers closed in, their lights bright as suns. A voice came through the comm. "Captain Ross, stand down. You are under arrest for violation of intergalactic contact law." Evan ignored it. "Maya, jump now." The stars stretched into white lines and the horizon vanished into the void. When the light faded, they were alone again, floating in the cold silence of deep space. Maya slumped in her chair, breathing hard. "We're clear." They can't track us here, but we burned half our fuel. Evan leaned back, exhausted. Worth it. Lyra looked out the window, eyes wide with wonder. That was fast, Evan chuckled softly. That was running for our lives. She smiled weakly. You're good at it, he laughed quietly. Practice, I guess. For a moment, the three of them just sat there in silence, the stars glowing softly outside. Then Lyra turned toward him, serious again. Why are they chasing us? She asked. Evan looked at her gently. Because they don't understand what you are yet. And what am I? He smiled faintly. You're the reason I broke every rule I ever followed. Far behind them, the patrol cruisers sent a message to command. The traitor Ross has gone dark. He's protecting an alien child. And somewhere deep in the darkness between stars, a new hunt began. One that would test how far a human heart could go to protect what it loved. The horizon drifted in silence. Outside the window, a field of dying stars glowed faintly, their light soft and gold. Inside, everything felt calm, but Captain Evan Ross knew it was only the calm before something worse. For 2 days they had floated between sectors, hiding from both human patrols and Rhinari scouts. The engines were quiet, the crew spoke in whispers, and in the medical bay, the little alien girl, Lyra, slept under a thin blanket, her face peaceful for the first time. Evan sat beside her, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. He had never thought silence could feel this heavy. Maya Chen entered quietly with a tablet. You should rest, Captain, she said softly. You've been sitting here for hours. Evan shook his head. I can't, she's still weak. Maya hesitated. That's not the only thing you should know. She handed him the tablet. I finished scanning her DNA. It's complicated. Evan frowned and read the report. His eyes widened. This can't be right. It is, Maya said. She's not fully Rhinari and not fully human. She was made. Someone created her. Evan stared at the screen. The data showed strange sequences, human patterns mixed with something ancient, something unknown. Why would anyone do that? He asked. Maya crossed her arms. Before the war ended, there was a secret project, a peace experiment. Scientists from both sides tried to make a bridge, someone who could understand both human thought and Rhinari emotion. A hybrid child, Evan looked at Lyra again. You're saying she was that experiment, Maya nodded. Yes, but the project failed, or so they said. Both governments destroyed the data, afraid it would cause chaos. But somehow one survived. Lyra. Evan's hands tightened around the tablet. So that's why everyone's after her. Not because she's dangerous, but because she's proof. Proof that peace could have worked, Maya said quietly. Proof that we didn't have to destroy each other. Later, when Lyra woke, the ship's lights were dim. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. Where are we? Evan smiled softly. Somewhere safe. For now, she looked around. I dreamed about the sky. But not this sky, it was full of colors I didn't know. Evan sat on the edge of her bed. Do you remember anything else? From before the war? Lyra thought for a long time. I remember. People in white rooms. They asked me to close my eyes and listen to voices. They said I could feel things other people couldn't. She pressed a hand to her chest. Sometimes I can hear hearts. Not words, just feelings. Evan leaned forward. Like when you called me? She nodded. Yes, I felt your sadness. It was loud, so I whispered into the dark, hoping someone would hear. Evan's throat tightened. I did. Lyra looked at him with big glowing eyes. I didn't know humans could feel like that. My people said humans only destroy. He smiled sadly. We do destroy, but we also protect, we love. We change. Lyra tilted her head. Maybe that's what makes you different. In the control room, Maya monitored the long-range radar. Her eyes widened when a symbol appeared on the screen. Rhinari ships. Captain, we have company, she said through the comm. 3 cruisers entering the sector. They're scanning for us. Evan's voice came back calm but sharp. Stay dark. No lights, no signals. The horizon drifted behind an asteroid belt, engines powered down. From the window, the enemy ships glided past like silent predators. Lyra stood beside Evan, staring out. Those are my people's ships, she whispered. But they wouldn't help me. Evan glanced at her. They don't know who you are. Or what you can do, she frowned. What can I do? He looked at her carefully. I think you can do something no human or Rhinari ever could. You can make both sides feel the same truth. Lyra blinked. What truth? That the war didn't have to happen. That peace isn't weakness. She lowered her eyes. If that's true, then why do they still fight? Evan gave a small smile. Because most people forget how to listen. But you made me listen, Lyra. You made me hear again. Her eyes softened. You're strange, Captain Ross. He laughed quietly. I've been called worse. The Rhinari cruisers moved away slowly, their lights fading into the distance. Maya exhaled in relief. They're gone. For now, Evan nodded. Good, then we move to the next step. Maya frowned. Next step? We find out who made her, and why she was left behind, he said. Someone started this. We're going to finish it. Lyra tugged at his sleeve. You'll keep me safe, right? He smiled down at her. Always. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He couldn't protect her forever. Too many eyes were watching now. Still, as the horizon glided through the starfield, Evan placed a hand over the ship's console and whispered, You're not alone anymore, kid. Not ever again. Lyra watched him quietly, her heart warm. For the first time in her short life, she believed that promise. And far away in the secret halls of both human and Rhinari command, alarms began to ring. The hybrid child had been found, and this time neither side would let her slip away again. The stars burned red outside the window. Captain Evan Ross stood on the bridge of the horizon, his hands tight around the rail as warning lights flashed across every screen. The quiet days were over. The hunters had found them. From the speaker, Maya Chen's voice came fast and tense. Captain, multiple ships incoming, human patrols on one side, Rhinari cruisers on the other. They're closing in. Evan's heart pounded. Both sides? Yes, she said. They're not fighting each other anymore, they're both after us. Evan's jaw clenched. He looked at the small figure sitting quietly in the co-pilot seat, Lyra, the little hybrid child who had changed everything. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the flashing lights. She didn't look scared. She looked sad. They're all coming because of me, she whispered. If I wasn't here, you'd be safe. Evan turned to her, his voice gentle but firm. Don't ever say that. You didn't start this war. You're the reason I still believe it can end. Lyra lowered her head. They'll kill you for protecting me. Evan smiled faintly. Then I guess they'll have to go through a human first. The ship trembled as explosions lit up the darkness. Blue and orange lights streaked past the windows. Plasma fire from both fleets. Maya shouted from the controls. Shields down to 40%. We can't take another hit. Send a message, Evan ordered. Maya blinked. To who? To everyone, he said. All channels, human, Rhinari, I don't care. They need to hear the truth. Maya hesitated, then nodded and opened the communication array. You're live, Captain. Evan took a deep breath. His voice went out across the stars. This is Captain Evan Ross of the Horizon. You're both making a mistake. The child you're chasing is not a weapon. She's not your experiment. She's proof that peace is possible. She's half human and half Rhinari, living proof that we're not so different after all. Static filled the air. Then a harsh voice answered. This is Admiral Kor of the Rhinari fleet. Surrender the hybrid or be destroyed. Another voice followed, colder, human command. Captain Ross, you are under arrest for treason. Hand over the alien immediately. Evan's grip tightened on the console. No, he said simply. You'll have to kill me first. Lyra stood up, trembling. Her small hand touched the glowing control panel. Maybe they don't have to fight, she said softly. Evan looked at her. Lyra, what are you doing? She closed her eyes. I can feel them. All of them. Angry, afraid, lost. I can show them. Show them what? What I feel. A strange light began to rise from her skin, soft and golden. The ship hummed like it was alive. The lights flickered and a low vibration filled the air. Lyra, stop, Evan shouted. It's too dangerous. But she only smiled gently. You heard me once, remember? Maybe they can too. Outside, the fleets had surrounded the horizon. Dozens of ships aimed their weapons, ready to fire. But before anyone could give the order, something happened. A wave of energy burst from the little ship, silent, bright, and warm. It wasn't a weapon. It was a feeling. Every pilot, every commander, every soldier felt it, an emotion so deep it froze them where they sat. They felt her loneliness, her fear, her small wish whispered in the dark. Can I have a dad? And then they felt something else, hope. Tough soldiers began to cry. Rhinari warriors lowered their weapons. Human gunners paused, hands shaking. The energy rippled through every ship, every mind, every heart. For a single heartbeat in the cold universe, no one wanted to fight. On the horizon, the glow faded. Lyra collapsed forward. Evan caught her in his arms. Her small body trembled, her pulse faint. "Hey," he whispered, voice breaking. "Stay with me. You did it, kid." "You stopped them," she smiled weakly. "Did they feel it?" "Yes," he said, tears in his eyes. "They felt everything." Her eyelids fluttered. "Then maybe they'll stop fighting." Evan held her tighter. "Rest now, Lyra. You did enough." Outside, both fleets floated silently. Then, one by one, their weapons powered down. Commanders from both sides sent out confused messages. Nobody wanted to fire. Nobody could. Maya turned from her station, eyes wide. "Captain, it worked." "They've stopped." Evan looked down at the child in his arms, still glowing faintly. "She did what no general ever could," he said softly. "She made them feel." For hours, the two fleets drifted quietly in space, facing each other without anger. A fragile peace had been born, not from orders, but from the heart of one small child and the human who chose to protect her. When dawn light from a nearby star washed over the ships, Evan stood on the bridge watching the endless horizon. He whispered, "Humans fight, but we also love. That's our greatest weapon." Maya smiled faintly beside him. "You think it'll last?" Evan nodded slowly. "It has to." She gave everything for it, and as the horizon floated in the soft light of a new beginning, the universe seemed, for the first time in many years, peaceful. The universe was silent after the storm. No more explosions, no alarms, no voices shouting through radios. Only the soft hum of life returning to calm. The horizon floated between the two fleets that had once tried to destroy each other. Around it, hundreds of ships stood motionless in space, human and Renari side by side. For the first time in generations, they weren't enemies. They were listening. Inside the small ship, Captain Evan Ross sat beside Lyra's bed. The med bay was quiet except for the slow beeping of the life monitor. Lyra lay still, her silver hair spread over the pillow, her small hands resting on her chest. The glow that had filled her body during the energy wave was gone now. She looked peaceful, almost like she was dreaming. Maya Chen entered softly. "Her pulse is stable," she said. "She used too much energy, but she's alive." Evan exhaled slowly. For hours he had been afraid she wouldn't wake up. "She did it, Maya," he whispered. "She stopped them." Maya looked out the window where the two fleets floated in silence. "You think they'll listen to reason now?" Evan smiled faintly. "They'll have to. A child just showed them what peace feels like." A few hours later, a message came from both fleets, a joint signal. Evan listened as two voices spoke at once. One human, one Renari. "This is Admiral Kor and General Vega," the message began. "We wish to meet aboard your ship. There are things we must understand." Evan looked at Maya. "Looks like peace wants a ride," she smirked. "Then let's give them one." When the two leaders arrived, the air inside the horizon felt tense. The Rhinari admiral, tall and gray-skinned, looked around the small ship with curiosity. The human general, dressed in black armor, stood with arms crossed. Evan met them in the central room. "Before you say anything," he began, "remember that you both almost killed a child today." The general frowned. "We didn't know what she was." Evan's voice stayed calm. "Now you do. She's the bridge you both tried to destroy." Admiral Kor lowered his gaze. "We felt her," he said quietly. "Her emotions, her pain. It was real. It wasn't an illusion." General Vega nodded. "Same here. For a few seconds I saw what we've become, monsters chasing shadows." Evan stepped closer. "She showed you your own hearts. That's her gift. Not power, understanding." There was silence. The two leaders exchanged a look that held centuries of hatred and loss. Then, for the first time, they both nodded. "What do you suggest, Captain?" Kor asked. "Talk," Evan said simply. "Start again. No armies, no pride, just words." While they spoke, Lyra slowly woke. Her eyes fluttered open, catching the soft light of the med bay. She felt weak but warm, and she heard voices, calm, quiet, not angry this time. She sat up and looked through the glass door. Evan stood between two people, one human, one Rhinari. They weren't shouting. They were listening. She smiled faintly. "It worked," she whispered. When Evan saw her awake, his face broke into the first true smile in years. He hurried to her side. "Hey there, sleeping star," he said gently. Lyra blinked. "Did they stop fighting?" Evan nodded. "For now. Maybe forever." She reached out her small hand and took his. Then it was worth it. He sat beside her bed. "You scared me, you know," she smiled weakly. "Sorry, I didn't want anyone to die anymore." Evan looked at her carefully. "You did something no human ever could. You made them feel what peace means." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I just wanted a dad." Evan's chest tightened. "You have one now." Days later, the first joint peace station was built in orbit around a neutral star. Humans and Rhinari worked side by side under a banner that read, "The Bridge Project, in honor of Lyra." The story of the child who ended the war spread through the colonies. Songs were written, statues built, and messages sent across worlds. They called her the Whisper Child, the one whose small voice had reached across the stars and changed everything. Evan watched from the viewing deck as construction ships moved through the light of dawn. Lyra stood beside him, wrapped in a small jacket that looked too big for her. "Is this home now?" she asked. He nodded. "It can be if we make it one." She looked up at him. "What happens next?" He smiled softly. "We rebuild, we teach, and we remember." As the sun rose over the new peace station, light filled the cabin, warm and golden, the same color that once shone from Lyra's skin. She leaned against Evan's arm, closing her eyes. "I like mornings," she murmured. "They always mean you get another chance." Evan looked at her, his heart full. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Another chance to do better." Outside, ships from both species drifted side by side in perfect calm. The war was over. Not because of weapons or treaties, but because one small child whispered for love and one human heart decided to listen.